because you said that you love comics, and now so the X-Men are those your favorite set of characters?
Yes, I think with the new, like the rebooted show, it's really like reinvigorated my love of X-Men. It's just like, oh, this is a world I haven't visited in a really long time, like, and so it's nice to kind of dive back into it. But
yeah.
I watched Wolverine Origins yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is bad X-Men. I remember this now.
Are you talking about the first movie with Hugh Jackman where it was it was the first non team up movie. It was just his origin film.
Yes, and it's like, oh, we don't talk about the Fox movies.
Well, you know what? It's funny because the film had, because I remember when I saw it, and I was still a pretty big X-Men fan. I liked Last Stand to an extent. I wish that they had, for instance, had more of Beast, because I loved Kelsey Grammer as Beast. I thought he was perfect as that character. Very sophisticated, intelligent. But yeah, Origins came out, and it was just like, oh, because Hugh Jackman, was so perfect for the role.
Yes.
And yeah, there were things, unfortunately, that I think the movie did, and where you're just like, okay, that's it. And here's the thing: I never read comics growing up, so I never had that sense of, does this follow the comics the way it should?
Yeah.
I just looked at it from like a movie perspective, and and in that way. So, which, speaking of, then looking at the entire X-Men array, film wise,
okay.
What is your impression then of the franchise, basically?
I like the newer stuff more. Like, I know a lot of people don't like New Mutants. I really liked it. The older, okay, so Origins yesterday. After I was done watching it, I had to like stop and have a full 15-minute conversation being like, why did that's not how Deadpool works.
Yeah.
That's not how Cyclops works.
Yeah.
Why is Scott screaming all the time?
Yeah.
How is Gambit 35 years old, but Scott is 12? Like, what?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my opinion of the movies. They could use a reboot, in my opinion, with people that actually like care about the characters.
Well, because I know the first two, so the Bryan Singer ones from 2000, 2003, those are, I think, considered the two of the best.
Yeah.
And the first one was just so, that kind of kicked off the whole 2000s, because I don't want to negate things like, the original Superman, Tim Burton's Batman, and then stuff from the 90s like The Crow and Blade and other comic book films that did a lot, that were successful.
Yep.
But the first X-Men, which is now, I guess, canonically a part of the MCU.
Yes.
So
let's take a winding path.
Yeah. So it's just, and of course, Patrick Stewart as Professor X was perfect in that way.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting how with your favorite character, Rogue was a focus of the first film.
Yep.
And then she just dropped.
Yep. Disappeared.
In the second one, she's there a little bit.
Yep.
And then in the third one, I think it's like, maybe, I don't know, an appearance.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how how that happened to her.
It's really wild to me, because like, she's a fave, but she's like a fan favorite too. It's like, what is happening?
Well, I'm curious. What did you think of Anna Paquin's performance as Rogue?
It was muted, in my opinion.
Well, and the only movie she actually got to do anything in was the first one, and she's so young as the character.
Yeah,
it's more like she's trying to figure herself out.
Yes,
instead of being assured, she's she knows who she is, and she's a lot more confident.
Yeah,
which she doesn't really end up becoming because her character doesn't have any growth.
Exactly, and yeah, they did Rogue dirty. That's all I'll say.
Well, they did a lot. They did Cyclops really dirty.
That's true.
Like he was supposed to, he is the leader of the X-Men. He's intelligent. He's courageous. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But they made him into kind of like Wolverine's punchline because he likes Jean and then they're together.
The whole throuple. Yep.
Yeah. So they turned him into kind of this almost I'm trying to think of the right word, but just almost like a side guy who's constantly like, hey man, don't mess with my girl.
Yep.
And that's all he really does.
I mean, I don't want people to come at me like dead in the camera. Scott is always complaining or crying about his dead wife. That's
like in the comics, or
yeah, and like I like Scott as a character. And I think I don't know if you've seen X-Men 97. They're kind of trying to establish that, like, oh no, like Scott's a good guy.
Yeah. He's competent. He's intelligent.
But he's flawed now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not fully a Boy Scout, which is always nice because when you have like, I just always do the right thing and I've never had any moral quandaries. It's like, cool. But like, you need to have flaws in your characters to make them interesting. And so then they have growth, which that's why I'm really enjoying 97. It's very good.
Well, like Scott in the original cartoon, the 90s version, he was a good character. He was well written in that. And I thought James Marsden was a good casting for him.
Yes. Yeah. Really good casting.
Just the way they did the character was, again, it seemed like Wolverine was obviously, because he's like one of the most popular characters, that he was kind of the breakout character of that franchise, which is why he's the only one that got essentially solo films.
Yep. I was like, how many?
minus Jean Grey's Dark, Phoenix movie that came out, which was, I didn't see, but I heard was not very good.
I fell asleep. So,
but so I'm curious then, what is it? Because if Rogue is your favorite character, what is it about her character that you like so much?
So with Rogue, she does a lot. I don't know. I guess I see a lot of like myself in her, like emotionally. She pushes a lot of people away, and there's like kind of some accurate BPD representation within her. That is just like, oh no, like she can still be liked and have all these flaws, and sometimes, say or do things that aren't great, but people still care about her at the end of the day. Whereas like a lot of times with like BPD representation, it's like, these people are terrible and you shouldn't care about them and they're going to hurt you. And it's just like, so having some sort of positive reinforcement of like, oh no, I'm still a good person and people can still like me is something I've always been drawn to with her.
Yeah.
And she's also just like really hot. So
that's true.
There's that.
Well, because for instance, the other female characters of the group, prominently Jean Grey, Storm.
Yep.
I don't know if you count Jubilee in there.
I like Jubilee.
Even though she's a little kind of useless in a lot of ways. I don't know if I don't know if they've made her character more like effective.
Yes.
But
yeah, still
comparatively for what the other characters can do.
Yeah. Comparatively. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Well, because it's like, Jean Grey is one of the strongest mutants.
Yes.
Right? Like of all of them.
Yeah.
Or at least her potential when she's.
Yes. Storm is the best. Everyone loves Storm. To me, she's one of the best X-Men, mutants, all that. Jean is, because then I like want to talk about Madeline Pryor and the whole like everything with the X-Men. Why is it so complicated?
Yeah.
But Jean and Scott are like, yeah, you're Boy Scout, good girl. Like, I'm glad that they're happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like in X-Men 97, when they introduce her, they literally introduce her as like a pregnant woman. It's like she comes in like belly first, and I was like, you did that to Jean Grey? Okay, okay, that's a choice, but
yeah.